The key to a long career is flexibility and being able to adjust and to move.
So I think it's very inspiring to take a step back and see everything that you have been able to do and everything, all the different paths that you have taken.
Luxembourg is a networker's paradise. I mean, you can meet anyone. You can meet people from the government. You would be surprised who you could meet at these events and just have direct access with.
Hi, Mary. Welcome to the Casual Side podcast.
Thank you very much for inviting me, Andrea.
I'm very happy to have you here. So, Mary, you are a media relations and editorial senior manager here at PwC Luxembourg, a corporate writer for more than 20 years, a published novelist, journalist, and advocate for inclusion.
Sounds like somebody read my LinkedIn profile.
I just want everyone to know from the start a bit of the impressive career that you have had, but better to introduce yourself from yourself. So can you tell us a bit about you?
Sure. If there's one thing I can do, I can talk about myself. I always consider that I've had a very long but eclectic career. It has taken a lot of different paths. So currently I am indeed lead for editorial and media at PwC. This is a job that I did something similar to at ArcelorMittal, which is used to be the world's largest steel and mining company. I don't know if it's the largest anymore. So I was the head of editorial for the global communications. Now media relations, that adds a more external angle to it as well. But I've had a very unique and interesting, and I think female career path.
Yeah? What do you mean by female?
It's funny because in the old days, one of the things that was most powerful about a career was to try to have longevity or to try to stick to one company over another. And nowadays, it's really quite the opposite. The key to a long career is flexibility and being able to adjust and to move. So I can remember I have 4 children. They're grown. My one son is going to be 40 years old this year. I can't believe it myself. And I took 10 years off to have children. So I started in finance, if you can believe it, even though I went to university for history and English. I started in finance. I got my stockbroker's license. I worked in unlisted clearing. And I really just did it because it was a career choice, and it's what my first husband did. And when I took the time off to have my kids, I really thought, okay, I'm really not exactly sure what I was doing there. And when you take 10 years off your career to have children, which was the best time in my life, it's going to be hard to scramble back into your career. And so I didn't mind that. But when I went back, I worked at an insurance company in Luxembourg, and I was even the woman who pushes the mail cart all over again. So you have to start at the beginning. And then, one of the reasons I worked for ArcelorMittal is because I wanted longevity in my career. I wanted to show that on my CV, I had 10 years or whatever. But I worked in steel and mining, and I had no knowledge of steel and mining, but I had knowledge in communication and marketing. So that's what I mean. It's that ability, I think, to be flexible and to move around is now really key in having a long career. I mean, maybe I'm not a CEO, but I really love where I am, and I really, really love my job.
I think this for me is super inspiring because I think there is a point in your career, maybe a few years into starting, when you're starting, you're thinking about what you want to do and you're very excited. And a few years after, let's put it 5 years after, you're kind of thinking, where am I going? And I feel like people get a lot of stress of exactly what you're saying, following a strict career path, right? And if at some point you feel like you haven't been so linear in your career, that maybe it's going to be difficult for you to arrive to a position like the one that you have, or to a senior position in a company. So I think it's very inspiring to take a step back and see everything that you have been able to do and everything, all the different paths that you have taken that have led you to today. So what else can you share with those listening about this? How have these different paths that you've taken helped you form who you are today at work and as a person, maybe?
I think you're right. I can even remember when I was young. I started working when I was 22 or 23. That's really young, and I was doing working for a company called Nesbitt Thompson Bone Guard in Toronto. And after 3 years, I was a little bit bored of it as well. But I think it's really about what you want from a career. And so that's really a decision that you can make over time. You don't have to make that decision early. If you are somebody who is absolutely dead set on being the CEO of a big four, that means you have to do the training, the paperwork, and build the career. And that might be what brings you joy. What really, I mean, I love to work, so don't get me wrong, but what really brings me joy is being in a job where I'm learning something new all the time, and there's new projects, and I'm dealing with a lot of people. So for me, being a senior manager at PwC is a huge achievement, and I'm super happy where I am. And I think that's what people should be shooting for. Where will I find my joy? I know that sounds corny, but actually it's absolutely true.
I do believe so as well. And I have a very important question, which maybe is difficult, but how did you know what you were looking for? How did you know that this was what was going to give you that joy?
I think if you asked what I wanted to be when I was a little child, I would have said a writer. And if you asked me when I was a teenager, I would have said a writer. So when the writing combined with the financial and the communications background at ArcelorMittal, which I really loved working there, and I was allowed to, I was the editor of their magazine and produced internal magazines and wrote a lot of articles and speeches. That's where I found my joy. So I had, the career tools necessary that you would have to have in a job like that. You have to know finance, you have to know marketing and communications, but then I got to write as well. And it's the same for me at PwC. And, I am a published author. It took me a long time to get there, but writing is really what brings me my joy. And some of the people in my writing community who are, more sticklers, they're really novelists and serious writers, and they dedicate all their time to it. They ask me sometimes, but how can you, when you want to be a writer? And I said, because I write every day. I'm writing every day. And so I think it takes time to find that thing, which again doesn't mean don't try to get those stable bits of experience and do your paperwork, as they say, and do the training. But I mean, I only started working at ArcelorMittal when I was in my 40s. And that's really when my career took off and when I became really happy, because you're in that sweet spot.
And would you say that you were already thinking about a position like the one that you have now, or already thinking of how to incorporate writing? Or is it something that more naturally started to happen in your life?
I think Luxembourg gave me the opportunity a lot because I was doing a lot of freelance projects. I used to work for a company called Concept Factory. I worked at Clearstream. I worked at Lombard Assurance. I've been in and out of a lot of companies. I even did some, projects for the government. And what I noticed was, these people were respecting the writing I could do, and then even, starting to be interested in concepts and ideas. And so I know this is going to sound terrible, but I've never really looked for a job. It's always come to me. I'm really a big proponent of networking. And when ArcelorMittal came to me, at first I thought, okay, this job is out of my league. But actually, it was just a dream job. I mean, an absolute dream job. I traveled all over the world. I did amazing things.
Okay, I have so many questions related to this, so I'm trying to organize them in my head. But there is a feeling that I have when you mention about joy and for example, finding the time to publish a novel while you're having also, let's say, a 9-to-5 job, right? Like a corporate job, and finding the time to do all these projects that also bring you joy. And I guess my question is, do you have any advice or comments? I'm thinking about people who are now looking at corporate careers, and I think that they are losing a bit of appealing You know, this is what I feel, this is what I hear, that some people get scared of having a corporate career and kind of feeling like you're stuck, right? And you're in this path. So do you have any kind of life lessons, advice?
I do. I mean, I have noticed a lot of anxiety. I myself have, 4 sons who are in that age range, and I noticed that the youngest one has the most anxiety. He's 36, and I think this anxiety is caused by a shift in work ethic. But that doesn't. I'm not saying that's good or bad. So when I started out in a career, you literally did as you're told, and you worked as many hours as you could, etc. So in some ways, I'm a bit jealous of the youth these days because they can make choices that it took me 20 years to make, that kind of informed decision. But it's the anxiety that makes me sad because I've been through so many cycles. My first husband was a stockbroker, and I went and watched him on the brokerage floor during the big crash. Then there was when I was working for ArcelorMittal, there was the real estate market produced crash across the world that eventually dropped the price of iron ore. So there's cycles. And I know COVID has been, for example, something that upset young people. Yeah. But as you get older, you realize that everything goes up and down, and you sort of relax a bit. And I wish I could impart a message to the young people not to feel so anxious. But I do agree. I believe it's a combination of doing your paperwork and getting your skills and going to school and then finding the job that suits you. I mean, I have once gone to a job during the 6-week period, and after the 3rd week period, I quit. And the lady was very surprised. And people should remember that 6-week or the probation period, 6 months period, is for both sides. Same when you go to an interview, it's for both sides. You should ask questions too, and not just be afraid of what questions they're going to ask of you.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think we also see that a lot in recruitment, actually, because it's a big part of the attraction and recruitment process that we want is if the candidate has questions, they also are evaluating if the company is good for them.
Absolutely.
And so if you evaluate the company and you really feel that you are gonna maybe find a position that brings you that, let's call it joy, as you mentioned, that the thing that you want, or is the values of the company or what the company is representing, whatever you identify yourself with is going to make your experience so much better. So I also think from a recruitment perspective, that is something that is super important for people.
Companies are people. They're not big monolithic stone buildings. They're the people that make up that company.
Yeah.
So, I had a fantastic team when I worked at ArcelorMittal. I love the marketing and communications team here at PwC. Those are the kind of things that can really make you happy and make you, want to work there. So that's super important.
Yeah. Yeah. And you also meet the people that you're going to work with and during this probation period, let's say. So you mentioned about networking as well. You mentioned that for you is very important. What does it mean for you? For someone who is terrified of networking, actually me, I understand the importance and everything, but when I hear the word networking, I'm already stressed. So what is it for you? And
well, I love networking, and I'll tell you how it came about. Luxembourg is a networker's paradise. You can meet anyone. You can meet people from the government. You would be surprised who you could meet at these events and just have direct access with. But I used to I was a journalist for Paper Jam, which is one of the business magazines here in Luxembourg. And they always wanted people to go to the networking sessions because you're sort of representing the company, finding out topics, etc. And I used to get paid for each one I went to. So I would go to 3 or 4 in a night. And I realized very quickly on that networking, if you can be yourself, then you are going to do really well. So when networking, if somebody's coming in with an obvious sales pitch or being a fake person or immediately coming in with the business cards, but if you can be yourself, then it really pays off. And it is no joke. I've never had to look for a job really, and that it partly is the personal connections that you make through networking, and you find out topics, and it's interesting. And it's Luxembourg, so there's crème on canapés. I mean, and it's not just external networking; internal networking is really important too. PwC Luxembourg has, I think it's 3,800 people right now. Get to know those people. Maybe there'll be opportunity in another area of the company, or maybe you'll find out something that you never even thought of in terms of your career that could be interesting. But the key of networking is to just go and relax and be yourself. It's the exact same advice I give for people who are going to write. Try to write exactly how you sound. It sounds easy. It's not that easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So would you say that it has something to do as well with curiosity? Because when you talk like this, what I think is like you maybe should think about who you're meeting more than curiosity about the people that you're meeting. How do you approach it?
It is, sometimes it can be tricky, especially if you've been out of the market a little bit. So like after COVID, networking was tricky again because especially I network at a lot of media events or, business events, and the people had changed. So you can feel a little uncomfortable. You might be standing off to one side. You've got to try to work your way into conversations without being fake, but it only takes 1 or 2 or 3 events, especially in Luxembourg. And then the next thing you know, you see 10 people you know. So it's really worth it. And it's good for you because it brings you out of your own self, out of your own character. And for example, at a job like PwC, a lot of it is presenting, getting in front of people, getting your ideas across. And so the networking, if you're shy, can really, really help.
That's a good tip to practice for sure. And this makes me think also about when I think of you networking, I also think of all your involvement in, for example, the networks, the employee networks that we have at PwC. I also think you're very much involved with supporting other departments, like, for example, being in the social media videos or participating in these events, in that event. So I guess here my question is, again, do you have anything that you can share about how participating in these different areas or aspects of the company has maybe helped you, or why do you do it? Why is it important for you?
I mean, for the TikTok, that was just fun. I mean, that was just fun. And I always joke, I wish that somebody had asked me to do this when I was 20 because I became a TikTok, I had one famous TikTok when I'm 62. So it would have been nicer if they would have done it when I was young. But I mean, I love doing it. And as you can see, I'm not shy. When it comes to the groups that I'm involved in, each one is a personal choice. So it's not by accident. So DEI is something that is extremely important to me. It's the way I was raised by my father, who really believed that everyone should be treated with kindness. And LGBTQ is a no-brainer for me. I have been an advocate for that for all of them since my very first job in Toronto, where my immediate best friend was a gay man who ended up being, the godfather to my children. They lived with him when they were going to university, etc. And this was during the 80s when, things went horribly wrong. There was AIDS. There was, really a backlash and discrimination. And so it's a personal reason, and it's something that I would do even if I wasn't at work. And the neurodiversity, same thing, through a personal situation, a familial situation. Someone I know had an accident, and so I know what it's like for these people. I know how hard they have to struggle and fight. And in Luxembourg was a little bit backwards back then. It's getting better. I'm from Canada, so we're a little bit more advanced. But to see people, see someone that you love struggle and not get the support that they get. So again, I would do it And I have done it outside of PwC. But it also makes me love coming to work every day. You know, doing those extra things just adds that really extra patina to life that is, you know, a joy.
Do you think being able to be part of, for example, these networks at work adds also to this feeling of joy that you were describing before? Is it adding to your work life?
100%. I mean, it's not just the network that's inside PwC, but for example, we have this Walk the Talk network that is, you know, at sort of like, I think we're up to 20 or 30 companies. I mean, I've met amazing people. These are all people who are willing to give, you know, their time. We've met people from the European Parliament, people from the Luxembourg government, you know, and you know, there's that feeling of we're all doing something together, which is stronger than doing it alone. So 100% for sure. I would never be a 9-to-5 type of person. And I have, you know, people who work for me, and I don't demand that they don't be a 9-to-5 person. You can be whatever you want to be, you know.
Okay.
That's up to you. But I love doing that stuff.
So what do you mean by that? Because that's also very interesting. It's a way of leadership of your team as well. And just how you manage your time on all these side projects and your expectations of others.
I had a much bigger team at ArcelorMittal, and I used to jokingly say when I came in the morning, can anyone tell me what I'm supposed to be doing today? And it was just a way of like relaxing everyone. I really believe, and this is before remote work, because it wasn't until PwC that I could work, you know, some days at home. I really believe if the people in your team are doing their job and they're hitting their deadlines, then everything is fine. And you know, people have children and different lives, etc. And if I like staying till 7 o'clock, that's my business. That's on me. But I wouldn't push them to. If I were to see that deadlines weren't being reached, then you have an issue. I mean, we're adults, we're autonomous, and everyone should be doing. Of course, there's things you have to hit certain meetings, etc. But I really believe, I mean, I was a loose cannon inside corporations for the first 20 years of my career. And it took me a while to realize, okay, I have to both tone myself down a little, but find a company that likes the way that I work. So when you get 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 people on your team and they all have different styles, it's better to just try to consider their style. And if it works, if it doesn't work, then you've got a problem.
It's really, really inspiring to talk to you, Mary. I think that from my side, what I see is kind of if you were able to give me a big picture view of everything that is possible to do, going back to what we were talking first, really, because sometimes I feel like when we're on the day-to-day work, it can feel a little bit like, I don't know if this is how you say it, but the horse view, you know, where you have, when you're looking directly at something and it's difficult to take a step back and see all the possibilities that you have. I think even inside the same company, for example, all the options that you have to grow and try new things and explore things outside. So it's really inspiring. So thank you for that.
Thank you.
We have a couple of what we call fire questions.
This is when I get grilled.
So we want to ask you 3 questions.
Okay.
The first thing that comes to your mind, okay? What is one word your team would use to describe you?
Energetic.
The career advice you live by.
Be agile and flexible.
And what is the moment you felt most proud at PwC?
Oh, gosh. That's a rapid fire one. Oh, you got me. I don't know. Maybe the first time they asked me if I would do the moderation for International Women's Day. It was a little bit of a challenge for me. I hadn't really done that much moderating, and I really super enjoyed it.
Okay, nice. Thank you so much,
Thank
Mary.
you.
It was
Thanks,
a pleasure
Andrea.
to having you.